And you can get started, Priya.
Wait. First of all, thank you so much, and I welcome everybody to this Houston chapter community meetup. Thank you so much for taking time on a Friday afternoon. I know we are so close to the holidays, you all would love to enjoy. So this is a one session that I promise that you're going to love and enjoy because we have a special speaker here joining us today, George Roth. He's the technical evangelist for document understanding and AI from UiPath. Hi, George. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, nice to see everybody. We don't have too many here yet. I mean, people are in holiday season, but we will also publish this after. So let's make it an interactive as we can. And just to be a beginning and open up, if you will have questions, you can contact Priya, myself, and Diana, and we'll be happy to help you when you are encountering certain problems with this.
Yeah, and no question is a silly question, so feel free to use the chat and one of us will definitely get to it. And if you feel free to talk, we can also have a discussion over this. And a few housekeeping items for the Houston chapter. I would say if you haven't joined the LinkedIn group, please search for this Houston UiPath community group. You can post your questions, like what George was saying. If after the session you need additional help, you can still reach out using the group. And you can even post what topics you would like to see in the future upcoming sessions. All right, so please remember Houston UiPath community group. And the Houston organizers currently is myself, Priya Esteves, and Diana Gray, our community manager for Americas. She's also here on the call. So if you have any questions on how to join, or if you would love to organize another session, you can definitely contact us. And here are a few upcoming events within the whole UiPath. There are a lot of virtual events that are going on. So if you can just go to the community.uipath and you can find all the events that you could sign up for. And there are a few in-person events that happens in your local chapter. So please feel free to find your local chapter and join them anytime possible. And these were my two top favorites. On December 19th, there's a connector corner that's coming up with OpenAI integrations and Mailchimp and Microsoft Teams, which seems really cool. So if you haven't tested out the integration service, that is another really cool topic to touch. And on Jan 25th, we have another Dev Dive series on the Solution Accelerators on knowing how this could help you. And there's the MVP program. I bet we had the deadline. So if you're still interested, you could still sign up for the next year's MVP program. So keep an eye out for that. And again, for today, it's myself and George joining you. We are going to share a very interesting topic on document understanding solution accelerators and the generative AI, knowing how document understanding can help you with the generative validation. So let's dive in. So let's see, what are solution accelerators? So just a second, let me just move this down. There we go. So solution accelerators are basically automation frameworks, which are custom built for your specific use case. So think of it as a very starting point framework, similar to our RE framework. All these solution accelerators are built based on RE framework. And these are tied to specific use case. In terms of document understanding, you would see in cases of receipts, invoices, or any personal IDs, all these are documents that can be processed. And for you to start that, you might be Basil, where do I start? Which can be my first step? So that is where the solution accelerators solve your problem in knowing if I have a problem in terms of document processing, this is a great place to start because it comes with all the best practices. And one thing to note is that these solution accelerators are not a plug and play solution. So it's not like you just download and you start running it. So these are a blueprint. So think of it as giving you the very basic structure with the best practices incorporated. That way you don't have to build it out all by yourself. So you've been given the instructions and along with a lot of documentation that can support these. And that way you can build it out on your own and customize it based on your application or based on your business needs as well. And there's this big question. See, if I can build it out of scratch, why solution accelerators? So one thing to note is that whenever we start any process, we always have trouble identifying whether I should build this process or not. So in this case, Solution Accelerator really fastens this process of identifying that use case and reduces that discovery time. So instead of you trying to go through talking to your business units, because I've done this several times where we would sit down with the business unit, brainstorm, draw this heat map, and you would try to come up with this backlog. But this solution accelerator gives you a great starting point. And knowing that it comes from UiPath, it gives that confidence to our customers. So whenever we are talking to our clients, you don't have to say hey, we are building this on our own. I have to start from scratch, start a new template, build my own use case. That will be a longer time. But in this case, these are UiPath provided solutions. And in terms of the design, you don't have to start everything from scratch because this cuts down your design time. And when it comes to your solution architecture itself, these are very modular solution. So all the best practices that we follow normally in any COE or in any organization, those have already been incorporated. And on top of that, you could still apply any other governance rules or security rules that you want to apply that can be customized as well. And in terms of development, even the orchestrator included assets or even with queues, because many of us have trouble documenting. Whenever I start a process, you've got your solution on the studio, but again, you have to go back, document what are the queues, what are the assets involved, if I have storage buckets, actions in it. So there are too many components involved. All of that has been pre-built, and along with that, even the taxonomy and even the along with the extraction is also built here. So you will have a pre-built starting point for AI. So you can always start off with this as a very good reference point. And you can even take these best practices and apply to any other projects that you're doing, be it RPA, non-RPA, because these are industry standards in terms of coding in general. And one thing I truly love about this is the modular design, because they've separated all the dispatcher, the document understanding process, the performer, everything's been separated and modular so that you're not dealing with the application layer interacting with the business layer or the UI. So this way, you still follow all the best practices. And the biggest question is, where can I find them? Because we've talked about a lot about the solution accelerator here and there, but to know where to find them, I will show you right now. So all you need to do is just go to marketplace.com, marketplace.uipath.com. Sorry, these controls always get me. So if you have signed up, you can just go to the UiPath's marketplace. You can always find this in the cloud or the forums, or you just type marketplace.uipath.com and it should take you down here. So as you can see in the landing page, you would be taken with a lot of different solutions and the reusable components that are available within the marketplace. So I would say just click on the accelerators, and this gives you a ton of information on all the different accelerators. So all of these are your very good starting points. And within document understanding, they have around 8 collections in terms of documents. So you can see all the different collections that are available. And this is very search friendly. So you can easily use the search engine optimization that has been given, and you can search based on your industry. Like I said, depending on your business needs and what your customer wants and what your current problem that you're trying to solve, because each of us have a different problem to solve depending on our industry. Let's say if you are in the transportation industry and you work with a shipping client and they have these bill of lading forms that are being given out, and you need to process those receipts, the bill of lading receipts. In that case, they do have a model for that. So all you need to do is just search which industry that you want to search and the line of business that we are talking about. And if you do know like what systems that they're using, and if you want to search based on like, let's say Workday or ServiceNow, you can still search based on the application specifically. So that way you find the right solution. And again, these are given to you as a very good, like, a beginner solution. But on top of this, you can still customize to say like your own business rules or the business logic that you want to build on top of it can still be done. So again, I will just like click on one of these so that you get to see. It even gives you a quick video on like a quick demo on what it does here. So there you see about the tax automation, the tax document understanding. So you can see all these are like the different solution accelerators that are currently available within the marketplace. So just going back here. Any questions so far? You guys are super nice, but feel free to ask away and we'll be happy to help you out. And here are some of the DU Solution Accelerator. Like I said, it had like 8 collections that are available. So for each of these, each of them is a solution accelerator that is available for you. And the clients that I've seen around in the Houston area, most of them have used like these Accord forms in the insurance and the receipts and also the invoice. So these are like the top 4 that I have used so far. And if you have your own personal favorite that you would love to try, and I'll just show you how it looks like once you download it. So just a second. I'm just gonna switch screens here. So whenever I've already downloaded a couple of the solution accelerators and tested them out. So whenever I downloaded the ID card or the receipts one, so I'll show you what the folder structure looks like. They give us the deployment and the documentation and the processes folder. What these are basically, I would say I would highly recommend starting off with the documentation folder because it gives you the overview, the development guide, and what needs to be done like step by step for your deployment to be done. And it also gives you the high level design or the solution design document that you could use as a best practice, and this again saves you a ton of time in your documentation because these are things that each and every one of us goes through in our day-to-day basis. So whenever you start a process, you want to understand what this process does, basically, like what are the specific SME validation points. So whenever your SMEs give that this is my problem statement and this is the solution that I'd like to design. So all of that you could still add in here. And it also gives you an overview of what the document understanding process itself is and the user guide along with that. So I'm just going to show you the quick solution guide along with here. So as you can see, for the receipts process, they've given us like separate solutions. So it again gives you options to customize where you can choose where your data source is coming from, because most of us have data, the files that are coming from either the email or from a network drive or from a third-party system. You could still choose where these files are going to be available. And these could be receipts, invoices, any specific documentation. This overview is still the same. So I would say like just add these and use the dispatcher process, because the dispatcher process is what is going to help you in terms of like uploading these documents into the specific queue for each of your solution accelerator, and then goes into the document understanding process. So as you can see, so these are 2 separate solutions. And here is your third step, which is actually your second step, which is the document understanding process, where you retrieve the document. And here's where the intense piece of the heavy lifting of document understanding works. So here's where you digitize it, you classify what type of document it is, and here's where you understand if you need help, because here's where the human in the loop part comes in. Because if the document is not correctly classified, this process automatically is built into like, say like, okay, I just sent it to Action Center, and if you're building an attended automation, it can still be sent to your assistant as well. So you can choose like where do you want it, and that way the human can actually validate and tell you like what type of document it is. And again, it goes back into the processing and forwards to the extracting the document. So this is where it interacts with the model that we have specified, and extracts all the fields that the taxonomy has defined, saying these are the specific fields that we will be extracting from. And from there, with this extracted fields, you would still want to validate based on your business rules whether these have been validated correctly. And in that case, again, it can still have the human in the loop and send the validated results to the action center and then proceed to the upstream process, which is your actual data entry process. So with the data that has been extracted from the documents that we talked about, what do you want to do? You can actually upload it to your specific CRM tools or any other application that you would like to enter. So that becomes your performer process. So that is basically the third step. And I'm going to try to pull this up. So it gives you like an overall design and a great place to start. So like I said, here we have the dispatcher, then the document understanding, and then we talked about the validation, be it the classification validation or the extraction validation. Either of them can still be sent to the action center. And then this is the third step, continuing with the document understanding, and it proceeds over to the data entry. So this gives you a high-level design, and here we also have a detailed solution level design. And these are documents that each of us prepares for every single process. And again, I love the modularity because each of them are separated. So if you're working in like a global team where you have to like work with like different time zones and there are different groups of people, let's say the developer and the tester, you can still have them like test one piece of the process while the other piece is being worked on. So which is why the modularity is really, really important. And I'm going to show you what comes with the processes. So as I said, it gives you the email dispatcher and the simple dispatcher, which is where the email dispatcher, if your documents are being like retrieved from the email, then you would use the email dispatcher. If not, you have a network drive or a simple application, you could use the simple dispatcher. And then the performer. And if you notice one thing, all of these are RE framework. So each of these comes with the best practices of using the state machines and the regular standard RE framework that we all use. This way you save time on like, not starting a brand new studio, creating your own studio process. So that way you don't have to do that. And I think this is the document understanding process. So I'm just going to show you this part. So we saw the email dispatcher, the performer, and the simple dispatcher. Now I'm just going to pull up the document understanding part. So with this one basically shows you, again, like I said, it gives you the two choices, the two flavors that you come with. So the action center or the attended. As you can see, it builds out the whole process of like, the digitizing, the classifying, and feeding the document to your extractor based on the validation successful. And this gives a really good starting point because I don't have to build out all these pieces. So if you think of these solution accelerators, think of it as, I'm just going to give you an analogy, like this is similar to your IKEA furniture, where you're given all the pieces and the tools with the instruction. All you got to do is put them together based on how you want it. So there you go. This is Solution Accelerators in a nutshell. And you've got like 8 different collections to test from. And I feel like that's a great starting point. But if you feel like there are any other documents that are missing out of here that you would love to see, you can still message us and let us know. And we will definitely relay this to the UiPath team as well. So I'm going to pass it over to George because
Actually, Priya, you have a couple of questions.
Oh, yeah.
Are these accelerators required? Do they require any kind of license or API keys?
So think of any document understanding process. This specific solution accelerators, they don't need any license or API keys. But in general, if you were to use like, the document understanding, you would still need the document understanding license, that special units alone. So how many units you have, how many pages you can process, just that part. But the solution accelerators, you can just download it for free from Marketplace.
Okay, and then another question, are there any project plan templates that come with these accelerators?
So what do you mean project plan templates? Ed, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I've been tasked to kind of look at our estimating skills for these kind of projects, and can definitely see the huge value of starting with these templates. I'm just trying to get my head around what is a best case, average case, worst case in terms of resource hours for these
Okay.
kind of projects. And I don't know if that would be available, but just wondering.
Yeah, so there's not necessarily a tool, but I would say that there's a 50% cutoff time in terms of your time to production. Because the whole idea behind the solution accelerators is to speeden up the process to your production time. So that way you're not spending a lot of time, building it out from scratch. So prior to this whole solution accelerators, whenever people were, building their taxonomy and even building the extraction tools, people will spend like 4 hours just, identifying each and every line, even trying to do the labeling part for, and that is depending on each document. So that would take like, let's say 5 minutes per document. And if you have like a data set of like 100 documents, and that's going to add up to like 4 hours or so, depending on the quality that they're going to do, right? So from the overall reference that I have seen from the solution accelerators, the idea is to cut down the time by 50%.
Okay, that's great, great. And would you say that the real focus in terms of development is the implementation of custom business rules inside? So you've got this great framework. So the work on our side to customize,
Oh,
for
yeah.
the most part, would be focused on the business logic. Would that be
Yes.
true? Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's the
Okay.
part that I was just showing you here.
Yep.
So like I showed you here, we saw the processes, right? So most of the time, your custom business rules could be on the document understanding side, where you can specifically say what type of documents are you classifying, and depending on that, how you want to do it. And the other area where a lot of rules could apply would be on the performer, because this is where your heavy lifting happens on your side, where you have to customize it for your specific applications, or to say like, oh, this is how I want it to be emailed to these specific people so that
Right.
they can work on it. Yeah. So
And
the
in terms
performer
of the classification models, so all these in terms of document understanding, all these accelerators would have associated models already
Yes.
built that we could train.
Absolutely. So
Oh,
most
cool.
of these models are pre-trained models.
Oh,
So
okay.
once you've configured these parts, like where you would, give your API key in here, once you've configured that part, you should be able to run it. And with that, like you should still bring your data set, the test data set and the training data set, just to validate like how good your documents are being classified.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Those are great questions. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell you all. Oh, one thing that I really wanted to say is at the beginning of the session is we have a really fun quiz at the end that we want to like spread some holiday cheer. So that's why we have some cool prizes, and I have a special prize for people asking more questions and being more interactive and asking more intuitive questions as well. So don't forget, y'all, you can still compete.
We could give a special prize for somebody who asks a question that we cannot answer.
Oh, yes, that's a
That
good one.
should be a special one.
That's a great one. Anyone else? Okay, off to you, George.
Yeah, it's nice to see you all here. What when Priya and Diana told me about this, I offered to come to discuss. I think these type of meetings are perfect because through questions and based on your experience, the product team is able to find the real stuff. I mean, not in their bubble where they live. So it's essential to have these type of dialogues. First of all, I want to tell you that one of the culprits of this document processing platform is not myself, my previous company. I came to UiPath 5 years ago, and it was an acquisition of our document understanding platform. Of course, it was far from where it's now. I tell the story sounds interesting, but if you think about it, it took about 3 years of hard work. We worked on these 10 people for probably 4 years before the software was acquired by UiPath, and now there are much more people involved. And I think for my, if I look back of what we offered UiPath when they acquired this platform, was the architecture, which it was based on the concept that up to that time in the IDP space, intelligent document processing, companies tried to create solution assuming that they can solve every problem, which is impossible. I mean, to create a IDP solution that can solve any document, that's a sales stuff. So it does not exist. And to come to the accelerators, one of the big problems of companies like UiPath, and this was before when we talked about for the older generation who remembers EAI space, enterprise application integration, we are offering the mechanism to integrate in, before was without automation, now in automation, to integrate everything in an enterprise. But when you do this and you try to define a totally horizontal solution, if you think about UiPath, it's almost like an operating system for automation built on another operating system. It's a different layer. But if you try to do something totally horizontal, obvious, it's like going in a house. When you buy a house, they tell you that the pipes are nice, but it's still not livable. I mean, you can't live in a house if it has nice pipes. You are interested in how the rooms are and so on your needs. So in this way, the problem that companies like UiPath are facing is how to offer solutions for verticals, for industries, and how to integrate with different type of systems, though, that people encounter. So UiPath cannot define something that we define like a healthcare or an insurance vertical, because can you imagine for a company like us with more than 10,000 customers in every industry in the world to offer to manage solution specific for a certain industry? I mean, you have to update those. We don't have enough people to do that. It's impossible to maintain solution specific for verticals. And this accelerator concept, which I am a big fan of it's the way how you bring to the horizontal to vertical applications. So this is a way how you can build up like healthcare, insurance, and stuff for reusable processing. And ideally, this accelerator, building of accelerator will extend to the community, and in this way, like if you work for a consulting company who does stuff and specialized in certain verticals, then you can build accelerator for that verticals. You abstract the business processes, and also you create these in a way that you create parameters that if you integrate with an HR system to be able to put Workday there or to put something else. So in this way, you have these templates, and makes your life, first of all, you get the architecture, which is really cool. I mean, you have a nice layered architecture. And in this way, building, you create actually a nice mechanism to go to verticals. I can give you one example, which I was really impressed that one of our forwards, I was running a panel with Cubotica in Phoenix, and they were, I asked them, what are you guys doing? I said, we are doing solutions verticalized for logistics and I think insurance, I don't remember. So if a consulting company takes over a certain vertical, he gets from us the horizontal, the operating system, and they can specialize in vertical or even lower than an industry, certain processes in a vertical. So you offer these accelerators. This is a great way to attract actually clients, showing them I developed this and I can develop and build them in very fast way. So I just wanted to bring this because I enjoyed Priya's nice presentation. But for you, the community, you have to understand that this UiPath not only gives you accelerator, it calls you to develop these accelerators, which becomes another mechanism to sell your services if you want for certain vertical and show what you did. And I think UiPath without the community cannot build up this platform because you need the community to build vertical. So it's clear that this is the intent of this. So to go to these two issues which I wanted to talk about, which are accelerators conceptually, but it's a different type of accelerator. It's, if you want, optimization of processes. So after the generative AI came a year ago now, everybody got really excited about all these type of applications, but people started to think about really how can I do something with it which is useful for me, not only write a nice New Year's card in Shakespeare's language to my grandmother. You can do that one too, but aside of that, you want to use it in a way. And with a machine learning in general, if you know what the scale.com company is, for example, I highly recommend to go and look at their website. They have a lot of stuff. So they are the labeling people, no? And they are their CEO said labeling is the new programming. No? When I started with my previous company to develop these IDP systems, our problem was to write rules by hand, to write rules. If you go in an invoice, if you see this label or this label is sometimes it's a different label, and then you take the next number to it, or if it's a date, you take the next date, you write rules in certain language. Now the machine learning, and that's why they call it the labeling is the new programming, you have to teach the system actually what to do by labeling, showing examples. And in document understanding, like any other AI process, the most costly thing into this is the labeling process and also the processing part to reduce the human intervention into it. So the first thing which came out, it's very fresh from the oven. It was announced only last week. It is how we are using generative AI in reducing the time and optimizing the IDP process. And this is done, obvious, you know, the straight to processing and average handle time. That's the intent, to reduce these parameters and to create more and more so if you process documents, to be able to do straight through processing, which means that you don't bring humans in the loop. And how you do that, I mean, you know, in document understanding, you have all these indicators which tells you the accuracy, the probability that is correct. But the other thing, what they came out with this framework, that you basically, after you extract a field, can you switch the slide, please, Priya? So the next slide. So basically what they do, it's after you extract it, no, go back, please. No, we'll go back, more back, please. Here, thank you. So basically the idea is after you extracted some fields from, you do the same thing with generative AI. Okay, so you extract the fields from using some foundational model that you have. So if you look here, we have this specialized AI. Each time, it was a question before, the models, all those models that you use in these accelerators are pre-trained models, which we call specialized AI. They are specialized to solve a certain problem. So what you do, you call the specialized model, and then you can call a generalized model, which are these like ChatGPT, OpenAI, or Azure OpenAI, of course. You can use those in order to extract the same information. And it's very simple. If the two match, that means the probability is very high that the solution that you found is good for a field. And they created a framework which you will be able to test. Actually, that's the thing. If the two things, one goes from the specialized model and one goes from the generalized model match, then you can actually increase the chances for automatic processing without the human in the loop. So if you have a workflow where you put the human, if the extraction correctness probability is lower than a threshold, so you increase this, you reduce the humans needed. And this is this thing. It's not very complicated. Go to the next one, please. So here you can see, you will get this. You can go to, actually, it's next week. You can start doing testing this. And actually, you'll have the insider portal where you can go in and subscribe. And also, last week came out a great blog, which I gave you the link, which explains this by Luke Palamara, who is the product manager for document understanding and other AI products at UiPath. It's a very nice blog which explains this whole thing. So this was the first one, and let's go to the next one. And this is actually what I said, that labeling is the new programming. So the idea is you can do like this. This was like, for example, Google. I was working with Google. Google has you can upload a picture in Google and it tells you what's in the picture. I got really upset because I uploaded my cat's picture and they said that it's a Boston Terrier, but I didn't tell the cat that. But the point how that was working initially was that Google sent every picture that anybody uploaded to these labeling companies, which were in different places of the world, and people were putting labels. This is a cat, this is and so on. So it was like a process of labeling everything. Now, the point here is that it is actually, why not to use AI to optimize the process of labeling? And basically, this came, we acquired Reinfer, the company based in London, which is now Communications Mining. And when I saw that first time, it was something super interesting. What was the main differentiator from the DU? Because they do a kind of DU too. I mean, they go in unstructured data. So you go in emails, it's an unstructured content. It's not necessarily a file, it's an email, same thing. And you have to extract from there certain things. But if you look at that, the way how they do it, you even don't see that's AI involved. So they basically, you start from scratch, you don't extract almost anything. Actually, you extract certain things, suggestions of fields. If you have a taxonomy, it suggests some fields, but then through work, the system will tell you where do you have problems. I didn't understand a certain thing. So actually they use AI to tell you what to label next. And don't start labeling if you are classifying dogs. If you classify the dogs and the system knows what's a dog, you don't want to give to the labeling person to label a dog, because the system knows. He said, finds a crocodile. He said, this is not a dog. Please label that one. So that's the concept. Let the AI to drive what you label. And the whole AI becomes something in the background. A colleague of mine from London, I can tell you that active learning was developed and mastered in the world, probably the best in the world, at the University College of London, where there is a team led by Professor Barber, who is actually a distinguished scientist at UiPath. They took this technique, which called active learning, which is actually started in 2010. You'll see, if you really want to know more applications of this, it started with images, actually. You'll see, I gave you some links at the end. So the whole story is, let the AI tell you what to label. Don't label that I understand what I understand. So the humans are optimized, so they are working much less to ever. Go to the next one, please. To the next one. Before I go into this, I just want to tell you, think about that you are the professor and the AI is the student. So the whole process of labeling is, how do I teach through examples my student to understand a certain domain? And you have to understand also the fact that David Barber gave this example. So if you have a teacher who, let's assume, teaches a student French and puts a sentence in French, asks the student, do you understand this, to answer in French. And it happens that the student understands that particular question, like, for example, I don't know, if you like champagne, and he says yes in French, and then the professor infers that this student is perfect in French. So then it starts asking, doesn't ask a French question anymore, and goes to ask other stuff. But the professor took the conclusion that the person actually already is a great in French. And what happened next time when they will get some sentence in French, this student will not understand it because it was a coincidence that it responded to one question right. So this is called bias, no? In the fact that the professor didn't train enough the system to teach enough to train the student in French. So he gave them one example and thought, okay, the student is great in French, but the student will be confused because it was just a coincidence. So the whole idea of this active learning in the back is to start running the system, and the system, can you go to the next one? Basically, you start sampling, you build, and then you have an indicator, a measure of the efficiency. And these are statistical stuff. And if you look at combining and document understanding, which will adopt the same, you'll see there are 4 statistical indicators, and they put it and they say this model is behaving 50%. So it's not good, because I want to bring the model at 85. And then not only that, the system tells you, watch out, because for these type of documents and these type of fields, this system is biased. So what that means, bias means that you didn't train me enough. You didn't give me enough French questions in order to make sure that I know French. No? So then that's the measurement. It gives you an indicator. And then the beauty of it, before, when you change you change the version of the model, you have to do a lot of stuff. Now this goes in the background. You don't know. And actually you create new versions of the model through corrections and through new labeling. And this friend of mine who used to work for Rainfur, he's in London, he called this invisible AI. I mean, AI doesn't have to show up that you have a model, you have to go in this AI center, move models, versions, stuff like that, no? So it goes in the background and it manages for you the versions. And obvious, you have the monitoring and audit of the performance, and all this will come in the document understanding platform. You will be able to see, to work with this without knowing that you work with AI. And this is the future of AI. I mean, people don't have to know what the AI does. AI should be your friend in the background, but doesn't have to show up all the time. And it will not kill you, by the way, because some people say the AI will kill you. That's AGI and it's far away, which can kill you. So let's go to the next one. So here you'll see examples, goes through, and we are done, more. You can go through, you'll see on the platform, it's accessible. And actually the same, it's in January. You can go in January, same, subscribe to the Insider, and you will be able to test. It's basically public preview. And actually, I gave you, if you are interested, I am personally, I was very interested. I didn't know what active learning is. I learned, and I gave you some interesting articles if you want to see other examples. Anyhow, UiPath became like the mastering company in this active learning, which is actually an alternative to other techniques of labeling. And we are using AI, which tells us what to label in order to reduce the labor cost. So that's the whole thing. Well, I don't think I have anything else. Can you go? Next one. Yeah, the links. Well, thank you very much. I think you got the idea. The two, I really recommend you to test it, and you'll see it's something really leading in the industry. Nobody else brought the active learning to this level. So it's really nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. I mean, like you said, you know, getting these benefits from Reinfer, and for folks that have tried the communication mining, you would see that the UI would similarly be, because they have that metrics where they would tell you like how they've trained. So this is what George was talking about in the measure phase. And to me, I personally have talked to a lot of the product managers that have built this. And one thing that I told him was like, you should have a standing ovation for having this, because most of the time when you're doing these kind of training, and for folks that don't have that, you know, the machine learning background, you won't know like what are the metrics to measure on, like whether, like what George was saying, are you biased or are you overtraining? Because there could be sometimes that you could be like retraining on the same thing over and over again, forgetting all the other areas. So these metrics are going to really help us out in terms of knowing where we stand, how do we need to like process. So like he said, AI is going to be a best friend, especially with this document understanding and in other areas where we have the autopilot and the assistant that's coming out. So with document understanding, with what George was saying, where you have to label, one of the features that they have talked about was that generative validation, where they would use the ChatGPT to do the GPT predict, which is going to cut down our time tremendously, because we don't have to like, you know, specifically identify each and every field. All we need to do is just go correct all the remaining fields that is required and add any additional fields. So I hope you guys enjoyed this information. I know it can be a lot, but these are really good things to look out for. And like George said, please go ahead and like sign up for the Insider portal, where you can, oh, I'm trying to go to this link there. If you go to this Insider portal, you can always sign up and register for these programs as well. On communications mining.
Now we have a question. I don't know the answer of that. I don't know if you know this, Priya, or
Yeah.
if not, we will find out. I mean,
Yeah, Ed, we'll probably get back to you on that because I'm not sure if it's available for the trial. But if you do have the enterprise license, I think they give you the 60-day trial if you're on an enterprise. But I don't think
Okay.
it's available
Yeah,
for.
the reason I ask is I was jumping into the new AI certification
Oh,
and studying as much as I can, but it'd be great to actually play with it. It looks like an amazing tool.
okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I
Yep,
think
yep.
the specialized AI certification is kind of revolving around the communications as well, because that's a broader spectrum. So let me check on that because I don't think it's available for the overall, the community version. But you could always
We
like sign
should
up for
make
the
it
enterprise.
available. We
Yeah,
should make it. I mean, how can you learn without having that?
for the for the
Yeah,
training.
we have to talk to the people to try to make it available.
Yes. We'll check and get back to you, Ed. But thank you for asking that. That's a really good point because
Yeah,
most of
much
us are
appreciated.
trying to
Yeah,
take
I'm
that
sure,
certification.
that's part of the integration and kind of figuring out all the plumbing
Mhm.
underneath. So
Yeah, that's a great point.
if I could ask one more question, or I don't know if you're wrapping up.
No, go for it.
I was just curious in terms of using the accelerators and the templates, would you anticipate these being versioned from like, does UiPath maintain these? And
Yes.
where I'm going with that again is if we were to customize, are there any kind of recommendations on how we approach that? Are there pre-built areas in the templates where it kind of calls out this is where you might put in custom code or whatnot, so that if we overlay it with the next version, it logically will work? Or is
Yes,
it,
usually they
yeah.
don't. Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
Yep,
Usually
yep,
they don't change the overall framework, like the skeletal structure, if you wish.
right.
So if you were to still update any of the future version, it would still tell you where are the areas that are being updated so that it aligns. But I don't think they would completely remove an area where your previous version would completely crash. And I'm just going to show you this part. So this is one of the accelerators. So if you see here, this one's the first version. But if I were to just download, this is not an accelerator, but this is one of the recommended packages that are available within the marketplace is this orchestrator manager. So if you haven't already used it, this will be heavily used in pretty much all the all the accelerators, sorry. And this is basically to move assets from one tenant to another, especially if you're doing deployments. This really eases out. So for this one, as you can see, there are like versions that are available. So right now they are on 2.5, but the last time I was using like 2.4.1. So there hasn't been a lot of heavy changes, but when I use it, like you would see like, okay, it's been updated for the latest products that are available.
Perfect.
So
Yep.
what I want to add to this, the general rule of UiPath is if you see UiPath on it, as the issuer, we guarantee that being updated because it's a whole process. But if you saw another source, like from another company, we don't guarantee that the company will update it. So you have to contact them. That's
Yeah.
the general
Understood.
rule.
That's a very good point. So whenever you're downloading accelerators, 80% of the time it's being built by UiPath and some of the partners, but they are still vetted out by the UiPath team. But if you see that the publisher is somebody else, I would say like, you would have to do your due diligence to make sure that package works. But
Yeah,
with
but just
accelerators,
to add, the accelerator are tested by us, so we'll not give you something like it
Yeah.
puts a Trojan horse in it. So it goes through the testing and it has a certification, but we don't guarantee the update of versions.
Absolutely. All right. I hope everyone's like warmed up with what you've heard. And I'll tell you one thing, even if you haven't, worked with a lot of UiPath products, this quiz is going to be like really fun and entertaining. So please go ahead and join us for the quiz. Diana has posted the instructions on the screen. I'm going to stop sharing and over to Diana. So if you all have your phone, please pick up and scan this QR code, or you can just go to menti.com and type in this code where you can enter the quiz. So it's going to run pretty fast. And as soon as we are done, we are going to select the top 4 participants, the top 4 winners. So just give us a thumbs up as soon as you all are ready with this. You have been able to join. Okay, cool. We have 5 so far. Yeah, we have 6 participants. That's cool. Anybody has any trouble? Can we move to the first question? Okay, Glenn, thank you. Awesome. Okay. So the first question for y'all, get ready, it's gonna pop up. And remember, the fastest person to answer gets the best points. So where can you find the solution accelerators? We just talked about it. We saw the links. So do you go to the Facebook Marketplace, or can you order it on Amazon or the UiPath Marketplace? There we go. All of y'all got right. That's awesome. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, there's some tough competition. I bet it's just microseconds difference. That's awesome. Okay, next question. It's gonna come. Documents cannot be retrieved from which of the following data sources? We talked about a couple of areas. So the email inbox, the third-party solution, shared network drives, and from your door. So which is the hardest place to get from? There we go. I can tell y'all listened. That's nice. That's lovely. Oh, we might end up in a tie, I guess. Awesome. This is a pretty simple one. What does the RE framework stand for? I don't think y'all need even the options. Does it meet the reindeer framework? Oh, wow, that was quick. You see, I told you, y'all don't even need the options. You know this by this time. There is some tough competition. Oh boy, oh boy. Okay. If human validation is required, what does the process do? You can send it to the Action Center, call the customer support, check on Reddit, or ask the strangers. I bet you all know what to do. That is just fantastic. Oh my God. All 6 of you are really tough competitors. Okay, I'm gonna ask at the end of this quiz, please post your email address in the chat so that we can send you the prices over to your emails. Wow, Wolfmeister, we'd love to know who that is. Hey, Kevin, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, so you want the top 4 people to put their emails in the chat?
Yes, please.
So we need Wolfmeister, Pingu, Android, and Ed. And if you could please put your mock names there too, so we know where to send it, that'd be great. Good job.
I hope you all enjoyed the session and the quiz. So if you
Hey,
all
Priya and George, Sharon here. Just wanted to say that this was a really interactive session, great insights. I joined the session expecting solution accelerators, but I got insights onto active learning. I think it was really valuable for anybody who's working in document understanding. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on a Friday afternoon. I guess we are just missing one more person. Vital, right? Vital, what is your screen name that you used? So we will be sending your prices.
We can't hear you.
No, I think you're speaking, but it's way far off. Could you type this on the chat?
So we have Wolfmeister, Pingu, and Android. We still need one more.
I have Ed's email too. So I have Kevin, Ed, and Vital. Okay. Yep.
Great.
Awesome. Okay, we've got all 5 here.
Great.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And again, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach us out and we'll be happy to help you.
Yeah, great session, Priya. Thanks. Thanks, George. Good session.
You.
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
You.